Imagine your wife goes on a girls' trip but comes back pregnant with another man's child. And then her father shows up at your door demanding,
My wife and I had been drifting apart for months. Every time I tried to talk about it, she brushed me off. She'd say she was stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed, anything but honest. And I wanted to believe her because believing her lies was easier than facing the truth. So when she told me she was going on a girls' trip, I didn't question it at first. But something felt off. She packed faster than usual, choosing outfits she hadn't worn since we were in college. She sprayed a perfume she only used on special occasions, and her excitement felt too sharp, almost frantic, to be innocent. I asked if everything was okay between us, and she forced a smile that never reached her eyes. She said the trip would help her reset, and I just pretended to accept it. The moment she left, my gut twisted in a way I couldn't ignore. The first 2 days, she barely texted, saying she was busy with her friends. Her messages felt cold, distant, like she was replying out of obligation, not affection. Then, on the third night, she sent a strange text. She said her father wanted to talk to me when she got back. I asked why, but she refused to explain, just saying we'd talk later. The uncertainty gnawed at me. 2 days later, she came home, and her father arrived with her. He looked angrier than I'd ever seen him. He didn't sit down, didn't greet me. He just stood there, looking at me like I was the problem before I even had a chance to speak. My wife stood beside him, quiet and rigid, her eyes a mix of guilt and defiance. Then, her father told me the truth in the coldest voice imaginable. He said his daughter had cheated on me during her trip. He said she had gotten pregnant from the affair. He said she didn't want a scandal. And then came the punchline. He said she wanted me to raise the baby as my own. He actually said it was my duty as her husband to protect her reputation. I could barely breathe as his words sank in. I looked at my wife, waiting for her to deny it, to say it was all a horrible mistake. But she didn't. She just lowered her head, acting like she was the victim in all of this. Her father continued, explaining that the other man didn't want the child, and the family didn't want the story getting out. He told me I needed to step up and be a real man for the sake of the family name. My wife finally looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, begging me not to ruin her life. Her life. I finally found my voice and asked her, "Why do you think my life doesn't matter?" She said she made a mistake, and mistakes should be forgiven. I asked her why I had to pay for her mistake for the rest of my life. She said I loved her, and love is supposed to fix everything. Her father just glared at me like I was dirt on his shoe. He said if I refused, they would make sure everyone blamed me for the marriage falling apart. They would paint me as a heartless man who abandoned his pregnant wife. He threatened to turn my own community against me. That's when I stood up. I looked at them both and told them to get out of my house. My wife started crying, begging me to reconsider, but I walked to the door and opened it without another word. Her father yelled that I was ruining everything. I just looked at him and said, "Your daughter ruined everything the moment she chose to be with someone else." They finally left, their threats and warnings echoing in the empty house, but I no longer cared. That night I just stared at the ceiling, realizing my marriage hadn't just ended with this trip. It had been over long before the cheating. It had died slowly, in all the conversations we never had and all the truths we both avoided. The next morning her father called again, demanding I reconsider. I hung up without saying a word. My wife then sent me long paragraphs of apologies that sounded more desperate than sincere. She begged me to keep her secret for the sake of her reputation. I texted back, telling her she should be more worried about her conscience than her image. Later that week, she showed up at my door again. She cried harder this time, saying her father was pressuring her, that she had nowhere else to go. I told her she should have thought about that before she betrayed our vows. She looked at me and asked if I still loved her. And I told her the truth, love cannot fix what she had broken. She sank to her knees on my doorstep, but I didn't move. I felt more numb than angry, more exhausted than hurt. When she finally realized I meant every word I said, she left quietly. Her father tried calling a few more times, but I blocked his number. The truth eventually came out, as it always does. My family found out, and then the community. Lies travel fast, but the truth travels faster when you're done hiding it. Some people who had judged me now understood. Some apologized, some stayed silent, and others just avoided me, uncomfortable with the messages of it all. But for the first time, I didn't care about public opinion. I only cared about rebuilding myself from the ashes of a marriage that was never truly mine to begin with. Time passed. The silence in my house became more comfortable than the memories. I started focusing on myself for the first time in years. I went to the gym, picked up old hobbies, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I learned how much pain I had buried beneath years of misplaced loyalty. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean you have to accept disrespect. And I learned that loving someone should never mean losing yourself. Months later, I got a message. It was from her. She said she regretted everything. She said her father had turned against her after the scandal became public. The other man, the father of her child, refused to even acknowledge her existence. She was alone. She asked if there was still a place for her in my life, even as a friend. I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the anger, the betrayal, and the hollowed-out feelings she left behind, and then I deleted it. No reply, no anger, just ... Some stories don't need a dramatic finale or a grand act of revenge. Some betrayals just collapse under their own weight. And sometimes the loudest form of justice, the most powerful statement you can make, is simply walking away and choosing peace for yourself. Thanks for listening. If you have a story to share, you know where to find me. Don't forget to subscribe for more.